Hi textile buddies, I'm Darya, textile and surface pattern designer and painter. On this channel we talk all things textile, pattern, color and artwork. Artwork is everywhere. This is the second part of the video about artist motivation. I made a video last time and today we're going to answer the second part of the question: how can you continue exploring or growing as an artist? Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. By liking this video and subscribing to this channel, you are helping the algorithm to show this video and more videos like this one to other creators who might be interested in textile design as well. Let's discuss 10 tools for commercial artist growth. Number 1. I think the first catalyst for artist growth is self-reflection. While it can be quite torturous and I wish I could pause it sometimes, it is also a helpful tool. When you learn to analyze your art and actions, but without diminishing yourself and your art, it can be very beneficial. Number 2 is healthy comparison. It's tricky to talk about comparison. It is often viewed as negative, but how else are you going to learn if you don't compare your designs to other people's designs? Number 3, learn to look at your art objectively, as if it is not your art. It's very hard to do in the beginning because we're either too critical and serious or too precious about our art. When you look at your art, imagine that it is not your piece. Would you buy this fabric? Do you like it? What can be changed here? What kind of product can it go on? All these questions can help you grow. Number 4, visual experience. Learn to analyze designs, yours and other people's. Find that it is often the easiest to find the most disturbing thing in a design. What do you see first? What is really wrong with it? And very often things are not beyond repair. Sometimes you just need to fix the color or to fix the scale. I'm going to show you 2 designs of mine which are old and I'll tell you what is wrong with them. So here's a design with simple green leaves on white background. What is wrong with it? First of all, it's very random. I just had green leaves and I put them in repeat, but what kind of design would it be used for? It's not a completely terrible, horrible design, but it's just not special enough. There's nothing special about it. I don't know, maybe if I had like a variety of colors, it would make it more interesting, or if I put an interesting colored background. But I think this design probably could be used for like gardening products, but it's definitely not my strongest one. And here is another design with some splatter that originally was purple, and I tried recoloring it into several weird colors as well. And again, it could be tweaked, it could be fixed, but this purple color is just too heavy. It's not trend forward. Always ask yourself, what kind of product could the design go on? Also, when you like a design, ask yourself, what is it that you like? Is it the color, the line work, the amount of detail, the composition, the mood? Or if you have a character, for example, do you like their facial expression? It could be a dog or an animal as well. Number 5, the best kind of voting is always voting with your dollar. So if people are not buying anything at all, something needs to be improved. Maybe it's just the quantity, maybe you need more designs, maybe it's the hashtags, maybe the designs themselves. Again, ask yourself, would you buy this design if you saw it in a store? Do you see someone else buying this? What for? Would you vote for this design in the challenge if it was not yours? Very important to distance yourself emotionally from your designs. Number 6, design with intention. I find that the worst designs happen when there is no intent, like with those green leaves. You just use random motifs, random colors. Here's another design of mine with acorns. I just had these leftover acorn motifs and I was like, why not throw them in a repeating pattern, and the motifs themselves are not bad. It's just the color that is off here. It's a very frequent mistake to use colors that are too literal, like green and brown. Green and brown is not a pretty color combination, in commercial design. It's pretty in a park, but not on textiles. So what I did a couple years later, I took this design and I thought, I was already more experienced and I thought, how can I improve it? What can I do to make it better? So I put it on a cream background and I also adjusted the colors, and here's the result. I think it looks better. What do you think? Now it's a pretty straightforward harvest fall design, good for Thanksgiving. You know, it can go on like table napkins, kitchen products. I think I made it better. What do you think? If you're not good at colors yet, look for inspiration, borrow a color palette, but please be careful and don't steal colors directly. Try to bring in your designer personality as well. Number 7 point comes a little bit later, when you are a little more experienced. Challenge yourself, learn new skills. For example, recently I challenged myself to work in Procreate. Even though I mentioned previously that I do not enjoy working in Procreate, this year I thought maybe I was wrong, maybe I need to give it another go. And I sat down and dedicated several days and made a couple new designs. I'll include them here. My goal personally here was to test if it's worth it. You know, I tried to really replicate the essence of those winning spoonflower designs. So I noticed, you know, half drops do better, and really filled dense designs do better, and also like scenes with, you know, animals and buildings do well, and also mirrored repeats. So I did these two designs, one with, you know, everything landscape and that I mentioned, and that one placed 55th. So I was like, oh, okay, I think I found the code. But the second mirror design actually didn't do very well, unfortunately. I don't know why. I seriously don't know why. Maybe it's the color palette, maybe the green is too strong here, but honestly I have no idea. But again, that's another topic to talk about. I just wanted to tell you that you can always find little gaps in your knowledge that can be filled. So I worked on Procreate for a little bit, and then in the end I still understood that I don't like it, you know. I realized already maybe 3 or 4 times that I don't like working in Procreate. But how could I have known this if I didn't test it, right? If you don't ever learn anything new, you end up repeating the same actions again and again. Well, yes, of course, it can be a part of your style. It's also good to shake it up sometimes, but always try to tie it up with your style, with what you do. You know, it's still you. Number 8 is testing and analysis. Analyze what is working and what is not working, and why. What yields the best results? For example, in those design challenges, you can see what brings you the most sales, the most attention, the most likes. Do some testing, upload some topics or colors, and compare results. But also bring in new approaches and experiments sparingly, because this is how you learn and shake things up. Number 9, be open to criticism if you ask for it, right? Or even, for example, voting in a challenge. You submit your design in a challenge and it's not going so well, design is not selling. You can try to understand why and fix it without being offended, right? I post painting tutorial videos, and some of them get thousands of views and some just fly off the radars. Then I see, oh, okay, the lighting wasn't quite good here, or maybe the flower wasn't interesting enough, or, you know, the reel was too long and boring. So this is how you learn and improve. Number 10, turn shit into compost. Sometimes you get unsolicited criticism, but try not to take it too personally, and take the grain of truth from it if possible. For example, I used to translate and voice over videos of a Russian YouTube creator. She is super popular. I think she has close to 1 million subscribers, and she was experimenting and translating her highly popular videos into English. Long story short, it wasn't worth it, but she tested it out to find out. There were a lot of super mean comments about my accent, my pronunciation, my word choice, translating certain words, and let me tell you, most of those comments were complete bullshit, but some of them made a point and they made sense. For example, the sound quality wasn't very good, and you know, it was pretty objective and it could be improved. Also, many people wrote that my voiceover was too bland and it wasn't interesting to watch compared to the charismatic original. She was, you know, she has this great personality. People were writing like the translator is too bland. They were wrong, because an interpreter is not supposed to bring in their emotions. Quite on the contrary, because it's not about me as a translator, it's about the content that matters. In the big picture, it meant that there is no demand for those translated videos. Her audience is Russian speaking, and that's it. As for those people who didn't hold back in their comments, first of all, they all were Russian speakers, so they were focused not on what she was talking about, not on the internal contents, but on the external, the accent, the sound, and so on. So while yes, some comments did hurt me, most of them spoke more not about me or my accent or whatever, but about those people. They were probably jealous that someone else, someone imperfect, was capable of translating this complex text with slang, with idioms and medical terms and so on. I think it would make a great topic for another video, handling haters and negative comments. Let me know if you have any interest in this topic. I hope this video was helpful for you. If so, please hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe. Please share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Visit my shop patterntalent.com. Follow me on Instagram pattern_talent, and remember, artwork is everywhere. Simple green leaves. What is wrong with it? Welcome to America.